Welcome to the Exposeco Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Tarpy, and I'm here with my co-host, Paul Tarpy. We're here to bridge a gap between our customers and contractors, and we're trying to get the best value, the best service to the people, and trying to expose home service industry in the meantime. So grab a cup of coffee or sit back wherever you are and get ready as we're going to transform the way that you approach contracting and home services. So let's get started. Paul, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good. I'm excited to jump on.
Nice, nice. So we got an interesting topic tonight. We are going to be talking about what happens when a contractor comes into your home and they're going to try and sell you something. And everybody's experienced this. I've experienced this, and maybe you have too. So I'm wanting to know, even on the sales side, you've done over 30 million in sales over the life of your business, plumbing and heating, and contracting. Tell me, what are some of the common contractor sales tactics?
There is a lot of different tactics out there. Everywhere from you'll find on a used car sales lot or all the way up to specifically for the industry. But it starts out with different levels of training on the sales side, causes different tactics. So some guys are super polished. They go into your house and they know from the get go how to control the narrative, control just the whole entire process. They're basically walking you through a maze and they're directing the conversation, directing the whole entire process to end out at the goal of you signing the sales agreement to get the job done. So there's that complexity all the way down to the simple where they look at everything and then they're saying, "Hey, if you get this done tomorrow, I'll give you a discount because we need the work." Or I have a unit, a scratch and dent unit that has a little scratch on the side of it, and I can give you a special deal. We need to get that done like right away. So there is a huge broad spectrum of different tactics on the way contractors sell, but there's extremely complex ones. And then there's ones that are not so complex and that are just the used car salesman type where they're throwing out, "Hey, there's a price increase coming up every time of year. There's a price increase coming up. There's rebates. We don't know when those rebates are going to end. We've got extra units that we need to get rid of. And as soon as they're gone, we can't give you that deal." Another common one is it's a slower time of year and we're trying to keep our crews busy. So we're willing to get you a deal if you're looking to get this done right away. Those
You
are
touched
all, yeah, they're all ploys to get people to move and get things done fast. So you don't have another contractor come out because everybody doesn't want you to meet with anybody else because the chances of them getting the job it goes down significantly. And the broad spectrum of ways people end up trying to make that not happen, there's a million different ways.
Yeah, there is so much to what you're saying because I studied communication theory in college. And this is like comm theory stuff 101, just the way that the whole sales industry is structured. You've used car salesmen, and that's one of the most easy ways that people can understand the sales tactics, which are applied in in the contracting industry, which are a little bit more covert, which is why it needs to be exposed. In the car sales industry, you're exactly right, man. You go to a dealership and that car salesman knows that if you leave his lot, the likelihood that you're buying a car from him goes down exponentially. So everything that he's trying to do is to close a deal right now. And he doesn't want to see you walk away because you're going to think about it. You're going to have other opportunities. You're going to arise, other deals are going to come up. And then you'll run to find something that just works better for you. And so he has to create scarcity by saying, this car is not going to be available in the next 24 hours. I've got another person on the line that's going to come see it. They just need to know. I need to know, let them know if you're going to take it or not. Otherwise, and so they create this scarcity, which is what you're talking about. We have these units left over from 2023 If we don't, we got to get them out now. But when they run out and the deal changes and the units are more expensive, so you create that scarcity of the deal. And so that's what contractors are doing, like you're saying. Talk more about this urgency thing, because I think that's one of the things too. It's not just about getting the deal done right now. There's something else about urgency, I think, that they're creating. Do you think that buyer's remorse, maybe, how does that play into a sense of urgency when you're a salesman? What are you thinking about when you're trying to close a deal?
Yeah, buyer's remorse is for sure something that is always on a salesman's mind, right? Is am I gonna leave here? People are gonna be accepting what we're doing, happy about it, and then later on feel, oh man, I made the biggest mistake. I'm gonna cancel this thing. Does it happen? Yes, it happens for sure, like all the time, especially if with skilled salespeople that are, you know, not pressuring people, but putting some pressure and giving people incentives to get things done right away. A good salesperson will leave the home with a signature majority of the time, even if those people are looking to still get other numbers. We used to call this soft closing. So it'd be people use lines like, are you just looking at what option you want to go with, or is you still looking at who you want to have do the job? And when you say that, you're getting them to tell you that either they don't want to use you, which nobody wants to tell you that to your face.
Yeah. Whoa.
Like most people don't want to say that to your face. And then you're pinning them in a corner. It's a genius sales tactics is when you say that, they always say, oh no, I'm just deciding on what option I want to go with. So then at that point, you're able to say, okay, that's great. So you don't have to choose that option today. We can just get you in the schedule, take the deposit for the installation, and we'll get the permits pulled and everything like that in order to get the ball rolling on everything. So that way it gives you a couple days to actually choose what option you want to go with. So how would you like to put your deposit in? And you're just assuming the
Wow.
sale there because they told you they were going with you, but they just didn't decide what option. So you
Right. You can
overcome
decide for them.
you're leading them down the road of accepting the proposal or the job by just working a conversation that people are uncomfortable with. That's an example of a very skilled sales tactic, right? People, what people don't understand is that like these air conditioning guys, these sales guys, they're sitting in an office one day a week and they're trading with other sales guys and they're acting this out. They're role playing these conversations. And their goal is to get you in that conversation so that role play can happen and that they can lead you down that road to get a commitment out of you. Just one example. I can give you dozens of other examples of being able to take people's objections to getting something done. And a common objection of customers is, I want to get 3 or 4 bids, which is a super smart thing to do, by the way. We, it's like in the military, you're trained for action, right? These guys are they're training for these situations.
They get
These,
paid based on
they,
what they do, right?
exactly. They get paid by the yeses that they get, not the nos. And they're ready for those. Hey, I want to get 4 other numbers. Oh, that's totally smart. But what are you looking to get out of those numbers that I haven't provided you today? And they're really putting you on the spot. And that's what good salespeople do. And so you can have really talented salespeople that have their own pocketbook in mind always. And any salesperson is, I think, lying to you if they say that they don't have their own pocketbook in mind most of the
Oh, yeah.
time. I mean,
We talked
there's
about that last week.
there's a rare few that I feel like are pretty dang straight up. I don't necessarily think that even if they are the most honest people, they're not the best salesperson for the consumer because a lot of times those salespeople are selling something that they're sold on and they're not really necessarily looking at what the consumer actually needs and doing, the right analysis. So there's guys that go out and they talk about how honest they are and they're indoctrinated into their own beliefs. And I'm not saying this is everybody, right? But this is the majority of people that I've come across, and I've gone through lots of trainings with a lot of different styles of salespeople and business owners, air conditioning, just regular air conditioning guys. And the guys that talk about how they're the most honest are a lot of times very stuck in their ways. And that's a detriment to the client that they're serving, because they're not knowing and they're not educated on the broad spectrum of different things that can really help clients for different needs and different situations. Like where you live, you'd want something that's going to be really energy efficient because you run it all the time. There may be a lot of these guys that have those feelings of, I'm just really honest, so I'm not going to oversell somebody, or I'm old school. They have these mentalities. I'm old school. We don't want all those bells and whistles because those are more things to break type of mentality is a detriment to the consumer, right? And they feel like they might be upselling you something or selling you something that they don't think you need, but they really don't know what you do and you don't need. There's two sides of things. There's the guys that are out there to take the bacon home every single time. And there's the other guys that think they're just being top notch and the most honest person ever. And they're underserving the client because they're afraid to have a reputation of selling something that is going to be a lot more expensive.
So that's going back to an earlier point I think we made in the previous podcast, is that it doesn't matter if the salesperson is honest or the salesperson is crooked, or just, I guess, not even crooked, just uses the tools at their dispense, forces people to make decisions that they're not ready to make. That kind of person just uses all of those tactics. They're just not a good representative on behalf of the buyer. It
Yep.
doesn't matter who they can try and say that they're representing the buyer or trying looking out for the best interest of the person, the homeowner. They aren't, and they're not able to, because they're firmly on the behalf of the seller. And even in their mind, even if they think they're on the behalf of the buyer, say they're a good person and they're trying to do right, very few of them are actually able to disconnect themselves from their company or the brand that they're selling, because their identity is so closely intertwined in that they can truly do what's best for the homeowner. And that's why you really do need somebody. You need somebody to back you up. You need somebody to come alongside and saying, "Then I actually have no dog in this fight. Like the only dog I have in this fight is the buyer, is the homeowner. And I'm going to put together all the pieces for them and figure out what is really best for them. I don't care which brand they use per se, as long as they're using a reputable brand. I don't care which contractor they use, as long as they're using the best, most reputable and honest contractor. All of those things, we don't make money from those things. That's why people do need, somebody, a friend in the business. That seems right. It just seems right to me.
Yeah. Well, we have literally a calculation to decide what's the best for you, not somebody's feelings. So it's based on our scorecard, right? Is based on, we're taking all the customer's needs, wants, and past history and future plans. And also with geography, knowing where you're at, what your utilities cost is, we're making this decision on what equipment is the best for you based on real numbers and not based on our feelings about something.
So
It's not feeling based and it's also not pocketbook laced. You know what I mean? So it's got zero motives behind it other than just truth.
can you give an example about that? Because I think that most of our listeners won't exactly equate that to real life examples. Like, say, do you want a smart thermostat or not? Or that's a basic one, but how about like the high efficiency unit? Because almost everybody is told you need a high efficiency unit. So how does that work out in terms of your climate, whether or not that's truly best for you? Can you get into that?
Yeah. So I'll give you a good example. You live in Chandler, Arizona, very hot out there. We can all agree that air conditioning is going to run majority of the summertime. Now,
and the spring and the fall.
and the spring and the fall. Now, you plan on moving out of your house in a year or 2 years. The benefit of buying a super high efficiency unit is not going to pay off for you, right? So we're going to figure that in and saying, hey, look, you plan on moving out, plan on leaving. Nobody buys a house because there's a high efficiency air conditioner inside that house. It's not really asked about. It's not a common thing to be asked about. Now, solar is becoming more popular. Like it's more of an asset to the home. People are seeing that. But air conditioning still is low on the totem pole of things that people are looking for when they buy a house. And
That's
if you
true.
were
They're
to go,
asking if it's new or not, right? I mean, they're asking is how
yeah,
old is my unit? They're not asking.
how old is your system? How long has it been here? Is it still under warranty? That those are the things that are the concerns of the new home buyer. They're not saying how much is your electricity bill because of your air conditioner. They're look, maybe 1 out of 1,000 are talking about that, but the majority of people don't ask about that stuff. So where salespeople would come in and say, hey, you need a high efficiency unit. You live in Arizona. You're in Chandler. A lot of people don't bring up the fact of, hey, where are you going to be in 2 years? Or where are you going to be in a year? What's your plan with this house? Are you planning on selling it? Are you planning on living in it? So forth. That's just one small example of taking a climate and still end up buying a system that's just going to get the job done and is not going to have all the bells and whistles because you're not going to get the repayment from it. We help people make good financial decisions and also obviously choose the right type of contractor to go with based on their scorecard. That's just one example.
I think that's a good one. And we can even, I think, expand out from that because use an interesting perspective of somebody who's going to sell a home. Are they thinking with foresight, how long am I actually use this unit and will it actually pay off? What's actually the payoff point where I'm breaking even on having bought this more expensive high efficiency unit rather than buying this less efficient unit? And for some people and some clients would never have paid that off. They would never pay it off, not just because they sold their home, but because they live in an area of the world in which it just isn't used very often. So the actual cost savings would never equal out by the time that the expendable life of that unit is done.
But yeah, in a lot of parts of the country, energy is not that expensive. San Diego and California is insane. It's like super expensive. It's not a far fetch to have a $700 to $1,000 electricity bill. It's insane. But there's other parts of the country that people are paying 50, $60 a month for electricity and they're running their air. There is places in the United States that a high efficiency system still doesn't pencil out for the life of the system. But there is other things that are benefits that come with those systems that people just like in general and are they're going to live in their house. They want to be comfortable. They don't want to be hearing it. There's a lot of things that
Totally.
can go
There's
into that.
other factors. Yeah.
And all those factors, we go through all those factors. We have a process in one of our packages that
Questionnaire.
we offer. Yeah, we have a questionnaire that we go through and it helps really to specifically customize something for you.
We're talking about the main issue, which is that do you really want to trust all of that information to a person who's not firmly in your corner? Do you want to trust that to a salesperson who's literally their bottom line is probably sell you the best or the most expensive package they can? They're not concerned about your wallet. They're not even really concerned about your needs, right? They've got an extra unit sitting in their warehouse that was a return or whatever some unhappy customer sent back. They're trying to put that at your house because that's going to save the company money. And that's not even the right unit for you. Do you have the know-how to discern and to actually talk with a contractor, make sure that he's not giving you what you truly don't need long term? Because these are big financial purchases. Like we all care about what car we drive, but we care more stylistically about that. But are we aware of what units we're buying or putting in our house when they're almost the same ticket price? Like maybe about half the ticket price of a car at $20,000
Yeah.
for a new unit.
There's a lot there because good salespeople, they'll go in and they'll make a lot about what their offering is tie into what your needs are, even if they don't actually correlate. But they'll be able to work it in a conversation and be able to puff things up that aren't really is important. They'll tie them into some pain points that you have. And they'll convince you that you have to have that. It's really important. And they'll do things to make themselves look better than other people by pointing out that those other people don't include them when you get into comparisons and such. The question is, would you want somebody in your corner figuring out what your actual needs are? And most of the time, they're going to put together things that are the stuff that's really expensive is going to hit your needs perfectly. And the stuff that's really cheap is not going to serve your needs whatsoever. And a good salesman will make you realize that. And you're going to be spending a lot more money to buy an option that's going to serve your needs completely. And that's the salesman line in his pocketbook there because there's
What
going
if
to be a
there's
lot more fluff in it.
Is there a scenario in which a salesman says, this unit that I'm trying to sell you or whatever is exactly what you're asking for? Is exactly what you need? It's high efficiency. It's got this long extended warranty. It's got all of the bells and whistles. You're going to be really happy. It's really quiet. It's got a great reputation. It's not made poorly. But in reality, they could be saying that about any unit. Is that a reality that a salesman comes in and could say that, let's say your house needs a 5-ton unit. Okay, we're in technical, 5-ton unit. He's selling you a 3-ton unit. He says that's exactly what your house needs. Do you think that's a scenario that could happen?
Yeah, it could happen. I think the majority of contractors aren't, at least my experience of the majority of contractors aren't, they're being sleazy in the fact that they're saying they have an extra unit for you, but they actually don't have an extra unit. They're just pairing you up with a unit that they think is best for you. And they're using whatever tactic they can to say, hey, we got this extra unit sitting around. I know that I can call the supplier, make a deal for you, or we have it. Somebody just canceled the job.
Yeah.
It's sitting at our warehouse. I think
Like the
that's,
white lie,
yeah,
right?
I think that's a common thing that people are doing. I don't necessarily think I think the magic unit that's appearing is the one that you need. And they're not underselling you, overselling you. They may be. I think that there's contractors out there that may be doing that. But I think the majority of those guys are, they're just creating the story that's going to fit the narrative on why you need to do it today in order to get that thing closed. But majority of the time, I don't think that unit exists at the warehouse. I think that they're,
Ordering it, that kind of thing.
yeah, because the reality of it is when these guys say there's only one left or I have an extra one, if they are buying any sort of quantity of units per year, they can just take it back with there's not a restocking fee. There's none of that. If somebody charges you restocking fees, that's the first distributor I would stop buying from.
As a contractor, you're
As
saying.
a contractor, if you charge me a restocking fee, I won't buy from you. We would spend millions of dollars with these distributors. You think they would charge us to put it back on their shelf, then sell it to us a week later? No, that's suicide for them. And California has a law that stops people from, allows them to work through their buyer's remorse. And so it's like it's a 5-day right to cancel. So they have 5 days to be able to cancel the job by law in California. But these contractors, they actually make them sign waivers to say, hey, I'm waiving my right to cancel. They can't cancel within that 5 days because they're
Wow.
waiving that. They're signing an
Wow.
agreement too.
And do you think
Um,
that the people know that they're signing that? Or do you think it's just in the middle of the paperwork when they go to do a deal?
it just depends on the sales guy. I think that I'm sure there's sales guys out there that are just like fumbling through and saying, hey, we just need signatures here and here. And the contract is 10 pages long. You do what you do in your iPhone, you just accept all the terms and conditions. There's a lot of repercussions on contractors if they are doing that and they're not explaining it through. State of California requires you the salesperson's license, and you have to go through background checks and all that other stuff to get it, which I actually think is a pretty good thing, but I don't think salespeople take it seriously. And, what companies take seriously though are bad reviews because it levels the consumer playing field at that point. Bad review is, I've heard it's worth over $100,000 in revenue to a company that is a high volume company because it means that $100,000 worth of work said no because they read that bad review. And that's pretty important to a company to make sure that their reputation stays up. Now, do I think you should go write bad reviews to every company that does one or two things that kind of irk you? I don't think that's necessarily the case. A lot depends on how they react to the situation when something goes bad, right? Because people need to give contractors a little bit of grace when it comes to the complexity of jobs, that there's things that can go wrong from time to time. As long as they make it right at the end of the day, there shouldn't be a bad review written on those people. But you know what? If people are out there and they do you wrong, you have every right to be able to complain.
Yeah, well, let other people know. Exposeco, like we're all about that.
Yeah,
Expose
exactly.
the
For sure.
shady, the bad workmanship, all that stuff. Oh man, this has been so interesting. There's so much more I think we could have gotten into as well. And I think we will in coming weeks get
Yep.
into some more of the ins and outs of salesmen and how they operate their mind when they come into homeowner's house to sell them something. And hopefully now maybe our listeners are a little bit more aware, as they are already aware of the car salesman's tactics. Maybe they can apply some of what they know to that when somebody comes to sell them something. Maybe they'll realize that they don't know as much about heating and air conditioning and other trades as they do even about, say, car buying. So maybe they think it's time to get some help with this purchase because it's too big. It's just too big to mess up, and it's too important of a decision to mess up.
Yeah, and you want to have a backbone.
And
You
it's
want to
hard
be
for a lot of
y-
people.
Yeah, no, a lot when you have somebody that goes into your house that's a trained professional to be able to get you into a position that makes you feel uncomfortable, makes you feel like you need to, or makes you just feel like you need to do something and you need to buy. You need to have a backbone, somebody that has your back and tells you before you meet with these people, you are not allowed to make a decision if you want us to do our job correctly. That's what we do for people. It's like, hey, that salesperson can be so great. He can be an amazing sales guy, but you know what? Your backbone is going to be behind you and they're going to actually tell you if he's really great or if he's just
Yeah.
smoking
Yeah.
mirrors.
It's not,
And
yeah, it takes the pressure off the making the decision then and there.
it eliminates that. That's what we do is we make people say no, and a good salesman is going to sit there and tell them that, hey, look, you're going to miss out. And we're telling you right now that we know you're not going to miss out. You can't tell that
Right.
homeowner anything that is going to make us believe that they're going to miss out because we know all the tactics. We don't play games. We know what's up. So we're going to be looking out for their best interest. We're going to keep those wolves at bay and we're going to find out which wolf is the right one to go with. If it's even a wolf, it might be a super nice guy that doesn't know how to sell at all, and he just gives you the right things, the right options, and also the right promises, and they have the right reputation. I mean, we want you to make the right decision at the end of the day. So making the right decision is not making a decision at all at the table. That's for sure. And we help to make sure that you have that excuse of, hey, my big brother does heating and air conditioning, and he's going to help me look through these. He's going to look through your proposal and compare it to everybody else's. So give me your best offer up front because he knows what he's looking at. And if they have questions, they'll give you a call. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of what we're doing, right? Is that those sharks that are coming in and they're controlling the situation. Literally sharks, what I'm saying, sharks are these sales guys that are like really good. Um, they're controlling the whole entire meeting from when the doorbell gets rang and and the door opens up. They are dictating what's happening. It's called taking control of the call. And these guys are well trained. They know exactly what to do. And when you push back on what the establishing control and everything like that, they're trained to be able to get you back in line. It's pretty impressive. What needs to be exposed is that you're not just dealing with some random, it's not just a conversation. There's always something to it. And this, I'm talking about people that are really good at what they do. And we're not talking about the guys that just come in and look at it and 5 minutes later are out the door. Talking about the guy that sits there for 2.5 hours and works with you. That was all scripted and planned. So it's interesting. There's so many levels of it though. And so some people won't even experience that because they'll find 3 or 4 guys that don't do that and don't understand that level of sales, which is fine. We'll still find out which one of those guys is the best guy for them. And they still will use some level of used car salesman tactics to try to close it.
Absolutely. It's par for the course. So,
Yeah.
Paul, this has been a really great conversation. Thank you so much for your time today and tonight. Exposeco out. Thanks, guys. See ya.